Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday and happy holidays. Welcome to today's Extreme Consulting Makeover. Really thrilled to have you with us today. My name is Japheth Mast, Ops Manager here at Management Consulted. I'm joined by my colleagues Eden and Jenny Ray, who will be helping facilitate today's session. But whether you're joining in from Zoom, from LinkedIn, YouTube, etc., really glad to have you with us today. One quick announcement before we kind of uh, introduce the session and talk about a few fun holiday traditions here. We had our today's first contestant just call in sick, so they're not able to make it. So we have an amazing opportunity for one person from the audience to kind of participate in a resume makeover session. So if you're interested in having kind of your resume reviewed by Jenny Ray, we'll give you some incredible transformational advice and help really get it ready for consulting apps. And then send me a private DM if you're on Zoom. Just let me know, hey, I'm interested, and I'll help facilitate that. If you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, you can send an email to team@managementconsulted.com and we'll get you set up. So again, we've got an opportunity for a resume makeover here. So if you are interested, we'd love to have you. Go ahead and uh, send me a private message here on Zoom, and we will try to make that happen. Amazing. All right. Well, as we're getting that set up, type in the chat where you're calling in from, as well as kind of a favorite holiday tradition. And I'll start with mine here. Jenny Ray, what's a favorite holiday tradition for your family?
I love that. Well, our family we celebrate Christmas in our home, and one of our favorite things that we love to do is to set up a nativity set, and it reminds me of my grandparents who purchased it for me as a gift when I set up my first personal household. So it's kind of feels like a legacy thing that we do inside our family, and we set it up, and the kids have to take really good care of it. It's a breakable set, but the kids decide where everything goes. And so sometimes everything goes a little rogue. Like the baby Jesus is not always in the middle of the nativity. And the angels are sometimes like mixed in with the shepherds. And it just feels very real and awesome. And so we do that nativity placement. We haven't done it yet. We'll do it at one point this week, but that's a tradition in my family that we've always loved to do. We actually have a lot of holiday traditions in our house, but that's one of our favorites.
Love that.
I love that. Oh, Philip put in the chat watching the first two Home Alone movies. Honestly, we weren't sure if my kids were ready for the foul language that they allowed in the 80s in PG movies. But this year we introduced it to our kids and they actually fell off the couch laughing. Like they thought it was so, so funny. And so I think we're not going to watch them once, but maybe like three times during this Christmas season. Home Alone is the best. So it's kind of fun to have them included in that now. Mhm.
Home Alone is one of my all-time favorites as well. Hard to beat.
Oh
Amazing.
yeah, Jennifer. Oh wow, opening Christmas jammies on Christmas Eve. That's solid. I love that. Making baklava. I'll come. I'll be right over. Looking forward to it. Wow, you guys are calling in from everywhere. This is amazing. Portugal, Louisiana, London, Ontario, Dallas, Texas. Binge watching Christmas movies back to back for weeks. This might be too much information, but my husband like absolutely loves Hallmark movies. Cannot wait until the Hallmark Christmas season comes in and like cries at almost every single one. And so it's honestly kind of delightful to be in the house at Christmas. So we have a pretty serious gender role reversal in our house where I like make fun of every single one of the movies and my husband watches them with a tissue box. So there we go. That's too much information about me this season. We've also traveled. Like one of my favorite Christmases that I spent was in Malawi. Super different Christmas traditions. So if any of you are coming here, not celebrating Christmas or celebrating in totally different ways. I've been there too and really enjoyed it. Well, welcome everyone. Oh my gosh, Hillary actually has a family tradition of roasting chestnuts on the fire. Like that's a thing. That's not just a song from 100 years ago. I'm amazed. I need to know all the things. So oh my goodness, you guys are amazing. Well, we're so glad to have you. Let me just share a little bit of why we do these extreme consulting makeovers. Number one, they're super helpful for the person who gets the makeover because we walk through what we do to transform a resume. But instead of taking the full, usually what it takes us is about 2 hours to go through a resume and a cover letter edit completely. We take about 20 minutes here to give the abbreviated version of what we would do if we had more time. So it's an opportunity for you to see what the situation would be with your resume and to catch a vision for how you tell the same story in a different way to have compelling opportunities inside consulting. So that's kind of the first and most important thing that we do. So if you want to have the extreme consulting makeover experience, but privately, so you don't share your resume with the world, you can get our resume cover letter editing package, and it's only $500, which I know is not free, but honestly, for the value that it is, people use these resumes, and the baseline of this resume is you build onto the experiences for like 5, 10, 15 years. So it's a long payback period for an amazing, life-transforming resume and cover letter. The second thing that we want you to know about is Strategy Sprint. We have 4 seats left in this year's Strategy Sprint project. The next one is January 6th through 12th. So if you want to kick off the new year with some new skills and a great resume experience, there is a US focused client. We will do the client reveal just before the project. They're going to be, it's a great business. They were in acquisition talks. They decided that they wanted to grow more before they get acquired. I think you're going to really like the industry and the business problem. You're going to find some really, the client is engaged and engaging. So I think you're going to really enjoy it. But we have 4 seats left for that project. It's $1,200 for the week-long mentorship experience of Strategy Sprint. And then finally, our final cohort of 2023 for Black Belt kicks off today. There are 8 hours of one-on-one MEB coaching sessions. It does include a resume cover letter edit, which is, of course, the topic of conversation today. But if some of you are here listening and you already have an interview, there is an option for the package that is without the interview, without the resume and cover letter. And so you can find that on our website or you can ask for that detail in the chat. But that December cohort starts just after the session today. We would super love to have you. It'll change everything. This morning, I was reflecting on my MBA process and I realized like there were classes, but not cohorts. There were programs, but not necessarily mentors that we needed. So there were things that I wanted that were more structured than what I got. And that's really what we've built the Black Belt program to do. The consulting journey is a tough one. So we want to be a part of that with you. Let me now just turn it over for a quick intro from Eden. And then Japheth, if we're ready, we'll kick off the makeover. Yeah, great. Eden, up to you.
Hey, oh my goodness. Okay, so my family Christmas tradition is Santa's Village, and every year purchasing a piece to go into Santa's Village. So anyway, it like brings back the nostalgia for sure when I think about that. That when you were talking about the nativity set. But anyway, hi
Love
everyone.
it.
My name is Eden. um, my job here at MC is to really help you explore what it is that we have to offer and to be the first touch point when you are just needing a little bit of a listening ear and some encouragement. And if you're thinking that something that we have is good for you now or in the near future, I would love to meet with you. We know how painful and how opaque this process can be on your own, and we try to make it fun and give you a little bit of hope in the process. So I just put my link in the to my calendar in the chat, and you can also scan the QR code. I'd love to meet with you. And yeah, I hope you have a Merry Christmas.
Amazing. Thanks, Eden. All right, folks. Well, we have got a contestant for today. We're getting the final details set up, but Nick Benatti, we're excited to
Yes,
have you.
Nick. Yes. Way to grab the end of the year by the horns. This is it.
Awesome. So, Nick, if you're comfortable, we'd love to see your face and have you come on camera and we'll kind of walk you through the next steps for that. So let me know if you're able to unmute and come on camera.
Great. While Japheth is getting that set up and Nick's resume up live, why don't y'all post one or two questions that you have about resumes, cover letters, or recruitment into the chat? I'll take about 3 of those now, and then we'll come back around to those as we are working through the session. So if you've got a question about resumes, cover letters, networking, the application process, timelines, anything like that, you can pop that in the chat. And then Japheth, you can just give me a thumbs up when we're ready to go.
Hi, everybody.
Hey,
Hi,
Nick.
Nick. You ready to rumble?
Ready to rumble. I have some camera issues, but my mic is working just fine.
Great.
No worries. You're in your Christmas jammies, aren't you?
A little bit.
Well, please keep your please keep your video issues going. Then that's totally fine. No, we're super excited to have you today. And if you have screen sharing abilities,
I
so if
do.
you're able to go ahead and share your resume with the rest of us. And then what I'd like for you to do after you put it up is just to do a quick walkthrough of like, here's who I am, this is where I'm coming from, any challenges that you faced, and then I'll dive into the resume from there.
Perfect. Hopefully this will work.
There we
Ooh,
go.
looks good. Great,
All
thank
right.
you.
Perfect. So actually, this is great timing. I was going through your website yesterday and actually started kind of redesigning my resume last night, kind of based on some of the feedback I saw on your website. So this is
Nice.
phenomenal timing. So you'll see education's not in here yet, working on that right now. But basically, from a career perspective, spent time both in industry and consulting. Started out in industry, met in Verizon, spent quite a bit of time at EY, right? Recently at a startup. So currently in that kind of a mode to get back into the consulting world.
Great.
So my resume kind of is tailored around more of the transformational projects I've worked on so far.
Love it. Okay. Fantastic. And then what's your timeline? Like when are you thinking about applying or breaking in? Just so that I know what we're gonna put. It looks like for Sigma 7, you only have it through October. So are you actively seeking employment now?
Actively looking.
Awesome. So as soon as they're ready, you're ready, huh?
Exactly.
Okay, love it. And then one thing that I can't see on here, I don't know if you took it off on purpose, is do you have any kind of educational background or community leadership portions? I don't know if there's another page that I can't see or if that just got
So
changed in your
that's
new
next. I'm in the
mods.
middle plugging that in, but from an education perspective, bachelor's, MBA, and then from a volunteer perspective, I'm actually a board member at a nonprofit.
Okay, amazing. So first things first. So our first job usually is to try to figure out what the purpose of the resume is and what season you're in. So you're going to come in as an experienced hire. When did you graduate from your MBA?
2017,
Awesome. Where was your MBA from?
Seton Hall.
Awesome. And what about your undergrad?
So graduated 09 from Bloomsburg University.
Great. Okay. So what we would do with your education, because it's a little bit older and target schools for consulting, is we're going to put it toward the end.
Yep.
But I do think that having it on there will be helpful to explain some of the background and also just answer the lurking question. Because sometimes people will be like, wait, did he go to school? If we don't put it on there. So I'm assuming you're planning to do that, but we don't
Absolutely.
need a lot of real estate for it. So I'm going to give like mentally just about somewhere around like 1/5 at the most of the page for that kind of section. I would use around the same amount of space for the nonprofit board leadership position. That extracurricular experience is important when you're entering into consulting at the manager or partner level, because part of your job is to network within communities. Part of your job is to serve on boards, because that's when you're on boards with other people that have hiring authority for consulting firms, that's one of the ways that they get business. And so talk to me just a little bit about that board experience, and I'll assign a little bit of space to where your resume would be for that as well. Then I'll come back to your education, sorry, to your experience after that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually really relevant to the resume itself, actually. So started this role this summer. It's essentially it's a startup. We started the organization this summer. The idea is to raise scholarship funds for kids in with financial need, and My role specifically has been to set up their CRM, right? So set up their website, and sort of all that kind of infrastructure behind the scenes that typically you don't see, right? When you're maybe donating money. So the website, the forms, and then next budget and financial planning for next year. So kind of
Cool.
relevant to a lot of the stuff I do day to day in my work.
And it's a startup nonprofit.
It's startup and it says we started it in June, so it's very fresh.
Cool. Why did you start the nonprofit? I'm curious about the story because that'll be a part of what we might want to draw out here.
Yeah, so a couple of things, right? One, it's a close group of friends of us decided to come up with this idea. So have the commitment with camaraderie with folks. I think it's important as folks in the professional space, as we grow our careers, as we learn, that we take that knowledge and share with others, right? And especially in this case, we want to raise funds and help give kids with not all the financial means maybe we have or wish we had, um, the opportunity to go to college, go to community college, get ideas on, hey, how do I manage my budget? How do I set up a career plan for myself? Essentially, what we're doing here, we're going to do for these folks in the more junior sense in their career, at the start of their career. So I wanted to give back that way. And then also, I do have an interest, of course, in, tools like CRMs and things of that nature. So it kind of met that need as well.
Okay, love it. Um, Awesome. So you've done a little boomerang. That's great. By the way, I do want that in a separate section.
Sure.
I would call it leadership, highlight the name, highlight the number of people that are on the board. If you know a target funding raise, or if you already have raised a certain amount of money, or committed, if everybody's committed a certain amount of money, even if it's not in hand, then like put, right, a like $1 million disbursement fund for scholarships or
Right.
whatever the number is. And, targeting giving, 100 scholarships in a year. If it's 5, if it's 100, just put the numbers in there to
Mhm.
make sure that you tell that story really vividly. If you have a geographic target or a school type target, I've seen like only for nursing school or only for engineering programs or only for certain types of things. So any of those specifics, you'll
Mhm.
want to call that out. So now we've got kind of like 2/5 of the resume taken up from a leadership and an education perspective. So we've got 3/5 left. We're going to use 2 of those fifths on, and my target for you is going to be to try to get it onto one page.
Okay.
To use 2 of those fifths for your work experience, and then one of the final fifths, and some of these, like the 3/5 for the other 3 sections might get condensed down a little bit, for a personal section, and then the other 2 that we've already talked about. So in the personal section, what are your technical skills?
Technical Power
Like
BI, obviously.
visual, yeah, exactly.
Power
Mhm.
BI, Excel, PowerPoint, have experience in Salesforce,
Great.
NetSuite.
Boom. Okay, so all of those go in one line. Do you speak any foreign languages?
Portuguese.
Great. That'll go in a second line. So, and then the third one will just be interests. What are a few fun interests about you?
Love to woodwork. Love working on on cars, and I have a German Shepherd.
Modern cars, historic cars, anything?
Modern cars.
Okay, love it. Um, So you're in like those 3 things alone are just going to be really interesting conversation starters. Just highlight like what kind of woodworking you like to do, right?
Right.
If you like to make rocking horses or tree ornaments or shelves or what kind of whatever the differences are, that'll be helpful.
Okay.
Amazing. Okay, so with all of those pieces, then let's go to the experience part. So you've got MetLife, Verizon, MetLife again. That's what I was talking about with the boomeranging back. So the first question, if I looked at this, then EY and Sigma 7, the first question when I look at all of this is, okay, hold on. You boomeranged back to MetLife. Why, would you want to go back to EY or not want to go back to EY? So tell me, is EY one of your targets?
Yes.
Awesome. Why? What did you like about being there?
So it was a phenomenal career opportunity. Learned a ton. Met a lot of great people. Worked on really challenging projects, and I think the world still needs EY, right, to lead these transformational programs moving forward.
Love it. Okay, so if we want EY to be pretty central, then I think that what you should do is potentially consider shortening Sigma 7 really, really significantly so that
Okay.
EY pops. And in general, EY and Sigma 7 are the only experiences on your resume that should have up to 4 bullets underneath
Okay.
them. The first like description of what you did is I think you could use a different format to be a lot more to give yourself a lot more space. Instead of having 3 lines for every heading, I think you could have 2. And I don't dislike the way that this looks now, but I just think that having like a bulky 2-page resume for EY might be fine. But are you targeting other firms other than EY as well? Because some of the other firms would prefer to have a 1-pager. They would strongly prefer that.
Got it. That's good feedback. So I am targeting, the big four and kind of the big traditional consulting firms, but happy to, to also explore sort of these executive roles in industry as well.
So the executive roles and the boutique firms are going to be a lot more interested in the translation of your experience, whereas the big four is going to be more interested in the specificity of your experience. That's why I'm kind of distinguishing between the two. And so our goal is always to try to get a 1-page version, because if we can get down to the 1-page version, then it works for everything.
Got it.
But again, like you're using, I recognize this font, but I can't name it right off the top of my head, but it's like a pretty
Cambria.
stretchy font. Yeah, Cambria. So if you wanted to change it to like Garamond or another font that's a little bit more dense, you'll feel like you have that same gravitas from a serif font, but you'll
Mhm.
also have a little bit more space that'll help you to begin. And then the first job is just to try to figure out what are the 3 or 4 most important bullets. Are they on here already, or do you need to write them instead? Usually they're already on here. So let me go through your Sigma 7 and your EY experience and try to pick out my few favorites and
Okay.
then what order I would put in there. So for Sigma 7, right, led integration of 5 acquired businesses to form S7, a PE-backed consultancy, drove the build of S7's infrastructure while scaling revenue potential organically and through digital projects. Great. So that's a good start. But when you say it's a PE-backed consultancy, like highlighting how many how much the PE firm put in, if it's public, or like what the general valuation is, would probably be more compelling than even like the what you did
Mhm.
drove the build of their infrastructure. Scaling revenue, always giving me numbers for that.
Okay.
So those 2 are going to be important. Then when I looked through here, the one that I really liked was the design to the go-to-market strategy for S7 University. It was kind of buried down there.
Mhm.
But that's a really easily tangible idea. So and it feels very similar to a lot of the types of work that you could do in any of those roles. So a good transferable skill.
Okay.
With with a yearly planned revenue target of 10 million. Love that. Then the tradition at S7 to Salesforce Sales Cloud, essentially managed $90 million sales pipeline. Loved that as well. Met with CEO, you can axe. Developed planning calendar, you can axe. Like these are all things that are kind of assumed portions of the
Right.
jobs, but they're less organized or they're less results oriented. Even though you've done a good job of explaining them, I personally would just cut them because I want it to focus on you created transformational projects, not like you were a project manager. I don't know if you can see the difference between the 2 of them.
Makes sense.
And then the only other one that I think is kind of interesting is the developed a roadmap to improve the delivery time of risk reports to clients by 75%. But that one still feels like a portion of what you would do for clients, not like a macro thing. So the
Right.
bigger the impact inside the organization, that's how I would prioritize what you would pick there.
Okay.
So I think like one context bullet, like led the integration of 5 acquired businesses, right? Total value of $40 million to form S7, a PE-backed consultancy with a 5-year time horizon for exit or something like that, right? And then like the other ones underneath there for what exactly you did and the revenue-oriented pipelines, those are my favorite bullets there. Then when we look down to by the way, any questions about that before I move over to the EY
No,
experience?
that's great feedback. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. And so then for EY, right, transformation executive, love it. Drove several waterfall and agile-led transformation engagements for Fortune 500 clients across several industries. So you're using the word several instead of vivid imagery. So again, pick a number. Was it like over 5 or was it like 40? If you're going to explain it. And I probably wouldn't put, we usually try to axe the word and. This is one of our general rules when we're editing resumes. So if you're like waterfall and agile, just pick one that you
Right.
think is the better description. I probably would pick agile here, right? So drove like 7 agile transformation engagements, but instead of several, it'll be 7 or 9 or whatever the number is
Right.
for Fortune 500 clients in healthcare and TMT or something like that, right? Like put the actual industries,
Okay.
because even though it feels like it might narrow you, it actually helps somebody understand what you did. Saying several or a lot or across multiple, I can't even picture anything that you did. So we're trying to create that vivid understanding. Spearhead promotion cases of 4 direct reports to manager rank. I actually like I wish that I cared, but I don't care. So you can take off almost everything that's like human capital oriented here,
Okay.
unless you're applying for a human capital job.
Got it.
It seems like in general, you're going to apply for jobs where you're going to be using technology transformation or some kind of like system setup or operations roles. Like I could see you serving as even like a COO or assistant to the CEO kind of person for like medium-sized organization based on your experience. So you really want to highlight not the human capital pieces. Let that come out in the interview, but it's not going to show up in your resume.
Okay.
So then basically for EY, you want 1 bullet per each one of the key industries and or project types that you did, but not both. So it's a representative sample, not a comprehensive list.
Right.
And so how many total projects? I mean, you were there for a while. So how many total projects would you say you worked on in your time there?
I would say about 8 or 9. There's about 3 or 4 that I've not included in here.
Great. So pick 3 or 4
Okay.
that you feel like are kind of representative, and their goal is to highlight, and ideally if it can do both together, is to highlight like 4 different industries and
Right.
4 different project types, right? So that the 8 features of the different types of work that you did are captured in 4 bullet points. And of
Got it.
course, I'm going to know that there were other ones, but when you go through it, bold the global HR service provider, right? And put the size, not if you can, right? For a, not just global, but a, $40 billion or a $2 billion or a whatever it can be, a 100 location or something like that.
Right.
Service provider, but bold the client in each one of your EY experiences. When you have
Mhm.
previous consulting experience, highlighting that there's 1 bullet per client makes it feel more readable.
Okay.
Because one of the challenges that you have with your resume right now is that all that I do when I scan through this, and I've looked at it now for a couple minutes, but I like keep going back to this, all I'm looking at is the names of the places that you worked. They're great names, but you want to engage me in the actual content. So
Right.
that's one of the ways that we do it. We have to trim it down and we have to focus what's there. So yeah,
Is
3 to 4 project experiences only for EY.
So these are all essentially public projects. Like if you Googled it hard enough, you would find out what they are. Is it appropriate to put the client name in the line, or should you still kind of mask that?
Whatever your agreements with EY and the clients
Okay.
enabled, right? So like if it's right, not non-material, non-public information that would lead to insider trading and you signed disclosures that you weren't going to do that, then don't put it on there.
Okay.
You can lead people to the conclusion of who it is by masking the client name and kind of are always safe. So that's our
Right.
general starting place. But yeah, even now, I've been away from Bain for more than a decade, but I still don't disclose the names of the clients that I worked for. I'll be like, oh, I worked in this type of industry with this type of thing. And like, if you're analytical at all, you can figure it out pretty quickly.
Exactly.
But that what's not, it's not important necessarily the name of the client. If somebody can draw their own conclusion, it's the variety that you're representing through the different bullet points. So having 3 to 4 of those would be great.
Okay.
And then just moving over to MetLife, Verizon, and MetLife again, basically, I just don't care at this point. Like, I'm not going to hire you for any of that experience. You're going
Right.
to keep it on your resume because it explains your timeline. You're going to highlight the things that you did for the, overall experiences. At this point, you have a long enough resume that you could honestly go to dates that are years instead of like the month and date format if you wanted to. That's
Okay.
one of the options that we would look at, but generally like 1 to 2 bullet points under each one of them. So you just explain what it is, and then I would try to cut down your first bullet point to align. So, right, instead of like day-to-day performance management of MetLife's GBUL's product portfolio, right? Like just like what you did specifically for how many products,
Got it.
right? Increased revenue by X, or like worked with a team of 17 to increase revenue by X. And then like, but in general, you're going to highlight on there the things that you're most likely to tell a story on. So one of the things that we haven't talked about in Extreme Consulting Makeover before, and you said you just kind of were on the website earlier this week, but we do these once a month-ish, is that part of your resume is to get you in the door and get the interview. Like that's a huge part of it. But the forgotten piece for a lot of people is that you want to be able to talk about it inside your interviews. And so generally our rule for anything older, like 2015 or older, is if you're going to bring it up in your interview as an example of a story where you were a hero, then keep it on your resume. Those are the kinds of things that you want to anchor onto your resume. If you're not, axe it. So think about this all the way through the end of your interview process, not just to get your foot in the door.
Okay.
Okay, so that was a lot. Any questions for me about what we just talked about with the overall experience?
No, this is great feedback. I really appreciate it. It's very candid and very direct and very specific. Really appreciate it. And I think the big takeaway is less is more. I think I get into a little bit of like a storytelling mode in the
I
resume.
know. Well, it's so good, and it's hard when we're in that impersonal environment. But the last thing that I'm going to say based on storytelling is take off your summary, just because again, like let your resume stand alone as a kind of highlight reel of what you've done. But then use all of that language. You're going to use it when you're talking to people in person, when you're on the phone with them. Really focus on using their resume to get a conversation with folks to assess what current hiring situations are like. It's a little dire out there, except it's when it's not. So that's why I was highlighting the technical things. We did a state of the industry consulting panel a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that came out, we had Jay, 5, 6, 7 firms on, 7 maybe. 100% of them are hiring. They all mentioned that their generalist hiring is down and
Right.
their like specialist hiring is up. And so they're looking for people that have technical skills as table stakes, specific experience, that know that they're going to like this. But a lot of the boutique firms that we feature on our website are specifically hiring and trying to look for great talent right now. So that would be another place that I would look for you. But just you're going to want to stay away from the storytelling and the generalist stuff, because that's actually not what they're looking for in this market environment. They're looking for somebody that can plug and play on specific projects in key industries that they're working in. And so really highlighting some of your details is going to help you do that better.
Makes sense. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for volunteering.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
You too. Okay, so let's go to the chat quickly to answer some questions. And then, Japheth, I don't know if we have another volunteer or more time, but I'll answer these questions, then you tell me afterwards. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay, love it. So I just want to highlight a few things. Do we have a black belt cohort coming up in the month of January? Eden highlighted this in case I don't get to join today. Yeah, y'all can join black belt. We have them almost every month. In our less busy seasons, we do them every other month. So we have, I think, one in January, but I don't think that we'll actually, I don't think we have one in January. We'll have one in February is the next one that's planned. And then we have one in either March or April, just kind of depending on demand. And then from April through September, we have one every month. And so some of it will depend a little bit on demand, but there's some fun stuff that's happening with that. Japheth, I know, has a link to something that y'all might want to know about that's coming in 2024. We are launching the management consulted community. And so if you want to join the wait list for the world's first community for consultants to be, some of what we have offered inside Black Belt historically is going to be made available to the community. It launches in early 2024. We will, I'm sure, sell out. And so if you want to join the wait list for it, the wait list will have first access to that, and we'll give you information. So all you're doing is saying, like, I'm interested in hearing more and I want to know first. And have the first pass at the community. So kicking off January 1, we will have all the specifics and the details. We've hired a community manager. Y'all are going to love this person. We just have a lot of really fun things planned for 2024. So if you have interviews coming up sooner than wanting to kick off the next cohort in February, like we would say, join today if you can. But we're looking forward to having you. You can join Black Belt at any time. Like you can join tomorrow or next week or 3 weeks from now, but the cohorts don't kick off all the time. And so it's just helpful for you to know the difference between that. Let's see here. So there's always the resume upload, but then there's usually a more manual entry asked for again. Yeah, Chris, isn't that the most annoying thing? Like seriously, can't you guys use AI just to pull together the information? Should everything here be a direct copy and paste or slightly abbreviated? So let me actually talk really briefly about LinkedIn. Do you guys know that we do every once in a while on special feature only a LinkedIn profile review? It's a like bonus product, and we sell 10 to 20 of them in a batch, and we do all of them at the same time, and we really love doing that. Same rule for these online applications as we think about for LinkedIn. So generally what we do is we will take every bullet point from your resume and we will try to cut it down by 50%. So we've already removed the thes, the a's, the ands, but we are dicing it down to even shorter, more readable format so that it doesn't feel like a word wall inside your story. So yes, you should copy paste where appropriate, but you should also abbreviate, and about 50% is the guideline that we use both for LinkedIn and for those online forms. Love this one. Grace, great. So, hello all, greetings from India. Hi, thanks for joining us. We're glad to have you. Wanted to pivot my career to social impact consulting from quality auditor. Wanted to know the interview pattern, the kind of case interview questions for social impact consulting firms. So social impact consulting firms generally will ask the same types of interview questions as other firms do, but the purpose of them is not necessarily only profit seeking. So they're usually looking at triple bottom line frameworks. So those frameworks will include things like looking at the market, looking at the operations, and then looking at the measured impact of an organization. We have some examples of social impact consulting firm questions on our website, so we're more than happy to have you for that as well. How can I show the prestige of my foreign universities, and what is the best way to do that on the resume? Great. So the prestige of foreign universities is usually either known to the firms if it is a prestigious school, like in the US, if you're taking somebody who did schooling in Singapore or in China or in London, like the recruiters know the top schools, and they know it for two reasons. One, they know who comes through the pipeline of graduate programs. So if you went to an undergrad program and then you come through the pipeline, those graduate programs are one of the filters for the top schools. But they also know it because they have global recruiting processes, and the people that they recruit in China are going to come from those same top schools. So I would say you don't have to overstate it, but sometimes just a quick caveat that says like top 3 university in whatever country it is, whatever the acceptance rate is, which is usually pretty low. Those kinds of things can be helpful, quick caveats when you're describing your foreign university. But overall, I would say that actually out of almost everywhere in the world, these consulting firms, especially if they have an international presence at all, do a really excellent job of bringing in some of those opportunities. What's the best way to highlight accomplishments for freelance or project-based consulting work? Yeah, and so Eden kind of answered this a little bit, right? Write your resume to read like your greatest hits. If you did freelance and project consulting work that was a separate experience from a work experience, like not at the same time, then we generally recommend that you name it something. So your name is Kristen. Maybe some people just are very normal and they say like it was, your initials consulting. Or you can just name the concept of the different projects that you did under a consulting banner and you put that into the work experience. If it was project-based consultancy that happened while you were fully employed somewhere else, we usually would do the same thing, gather it together, but then put it into your leadership experience instead. That'll be a big difference for how you think about it. Hi, Susan. I'd love to see your question here. Has the consulting resume style changed since 2021? I had MC support then. Another MC personnel made negative comments on my resume. I'm not sure how to proceed. Okay. Yeah, so Susan, that's great. There haven't been a lot of changes in the resume process, but the market has certainly changed. And so this, in terms of just standards and expectations, that would be really good. So yeah, you can let us know just about some of that and we can help sync that up for you. How do I make my resume stand out to bypass the ATS? So Eden already mentioned this one. We haven't talked today a lot about referrals. Nick, you're a personable guy. You were sharing really, great about your stuff. You're positive, you're engaging. Y'all want to talk to people. They're going to like you more when they talk to you than before they do. And so Eden is right. Having a referral and having somebody go in the back end before you go in the front door is the exact perfect way to do this. So I think that's going to be really, really great. Are there any tips that candidates can adopt in their CVs and cover letters who are looking at transitioning from non-feeder industries? There are so many places that consulting firms would love for y'all to come from, but you do need a resume that speaks to the exact experiences. I already gave you some of the guidelines, the one pager. Eden also highlight a few of those things. Eden, do you mind just popping a few of those links directly into the chat on like our resume guide, our cover letter guide? We have some, free content that's incredibly detailed that I think could be really helpful. We have some free templates. So everything that you could find that could be helpful, we should be able to get you started on that. I would just say that a lot of people hire us, even if you walk through all of that material, because you don't know what your blind spots are. Because the general rules are going to be amazing. They're going to get you, 50, 60% of the way there. You're not going to fail out because the format doesn't look great or because you don't have the right stuff on there. The wording and the composition of the whole story, like how much space is spent on each thing, which exact bullets are kept, then we take a step back and often we'll also ask the question that you forget to ask, which is what's missing from my resume? And sometimes we'll say like, you need a new experience, you need something fresher or different, or you need something in a different category. And so highlighting that is also super helpful. Since a government job does not increase revenue, how do we present something similar? Yeah, there are always metrics, Joseph. And sometimes, by the way, they do increase revenue if you're working with some organizations, whether it's from the budget, they increase the revenue, or they increase the revenue from, fees or other services. Governments are not for profits, but they still have both costs and revenues. But usually for governments, the goal is to increase the efficiency or to reduce the spend per service delivered. And so that's usually your metric or goal. Y'all are just full of questions, so keep popping them in the chat. I'll go through and answer them. Japheth, do we have somebody else? I want to stop this if we have time for one more.
Jenny Ray, let's just end with questions.
Okay.
I know you hit early, so I've reached out to the folks and we'll kind of try to schedule them for a future session.
Good.
We can kind of finish with a few more questions and get folks taken care of.
Love it. Sounds great.
We
so
had
in
one, if
yeah.
I can pop in here, we had one that was up at the top of the call
Oh, good.
that I felt like was a good one to bring up. And it says, how can I show the prestige of my foreign universities? And what is the best way to do that on a resume?
Answered it. Yep, I answered that already.
Oh, you did? Oh, I missed that. Sorry, guys.
Great. And so thank you all who wanted to volunteer for the resume edit. We would definitely love to have you. But what I want to do now is just open up questions to a like open ask. So if you want to come off of mute and ask more detailed questions, we have about 8 minutes left in the call to do that. Does anybody have a question that they want to ask live on the call today? You can raise your hand or you can just come off mute and ask it.
What are your thoughts on the transition from the more traditional resume to now functional resumes?
The consulting firms don't like them traditional all the way. Yeah. Yeah, it's like there's tried to be innovation for resumes. The last one before this version of that was the visual resume, where it was like a picture and you were kind of like along a timeline and that you were explaining things. But the consulting firms find that the more translation they have to do from the traditional resumes, the harder it is to compare a batch. And they don't hire for a singular position. I think functional is really great when you're hiring for one position, but when you're hiring across a band of positions, you just want traditional all the way so you can see what you did, when you did it, and who you did it for. And so I would just stick with the traditional for these firms. Good question. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate you piping up. What other questions do y'all have about resumes, applications, firms, timelines?
Jenny, we've got one in the chat from Shuba.
Cool.
The
You want to
deadlines
read it out?
Yeah. The deadlines have passed for consulting firms. So are the case prep cohorts preparing us for 2025 applications?
So 2024 applications, many of the 2024 applications are going to be for 2025 roles if you are a student. But if you are not a student, then 2024 roles are rolling. And like I said, right, a few weeks ago, we did the State of the Consulting Industry panel. And on that panel, every single one of the firms was hiring. They have, in some cases, hundreds of open positions, and they would like to hire you now in the next couple of weeks. And so we are always open, and we work with black belts who buy because they either want to apply for those jobs or they already have interviews and they need to prepare for those jobs. So we are always open to those kinds of applications. But yes, we do have people that start quite early in the process, like that we'll be interviewing next fall or next winter, and they're starting the prep process now. Our program Super Prep, which I didn't mention yet, which includes a strategy sprint and then 20 hours of coaching, is the one that people start the earliest usually. And so if y'all are interested in that, that's a great thing to talk to Eden about. Yeah, if any of you have all already graduated, just want you to know, like, please don't wait. We'd love to get you in the door to the consulting firms when they're actively hiring now. And we just never know what the future is going to hold. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, I have a question regarding the experienced hire.
Yeah.
I wanted to know what's the timeline for that. I read online it says they will hire all year round for experienced hire, and also I wanted to know kind of like competitiveness for experienced hire for your
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
So for experienced hires, there are two ways to apply. One is that depending on how long your experience is after school, like once I graduated from undergrad, I actually came in as an experienced hire 2 years later, but I did my interview 1 year after graduating. And because of that, I applied about 3 weeks before the applications opened for the undergrad school that I went through. Same thing would be true if like I graduated from Columbia Business School with my MBA. If within a year or 2 years I wanted to apply for consulting, I would try to apply before the Columbia folks are coming in the door, because some firms will consider me a Columbia hire in their Columbia quota. Right. So if you went to a target school, that's something to consider. If you are years out of school, or if you didn't go to a target school, then you're basically just in traditional experienced hire hiring, and you have two options: blindly submit your resume, or the option that will get you an offer of an interview with about an 80% chance is to pursue a referral, which is obviously the one that we generally recommend. So, getting your resume ready, finding open opportunities on websites if they are there. Many firms will have them there. And then reaching out to folks in the firm and just saying, I'm planning to apply for this role on this date, or I'm planning to apply for a generalist role in 3 months. How does that timeline sound? Does that sync up with what you're seeing inside the firm? The firms are kind of like they don't love to post generalist positions because then they get a lot of applications that are not the highest quality. So they use their referral process as a filter. And if you don't use the referral system, then you're just not even in the mix. So I hope that helps you to understand. It's basically like just 3 to 4 weeks before a school timeline, if you're still anchored to that and that's an option for you. And otherwise, the optimal way is just through recruiting, either with an open position or a generalist position.
Yeah, that helps. Just I guess the best way is through the referral because that's going to be more, I guess, easy to getting.
So the referral helps you get the interview, but it also helps you know when to apply, right? Because sometimes the firms will be like, oh, wait, but we haven't opened applications yet. Or like, let me just shoot a note to the recruiter. Oh, the recruiter says that like you should apply right now. And all of a sudden you're getting information that they didn't make public on their website. They didn't like put up on a social media account. These firms are just hustling to get business. And then when they can find great staff, that's amazing. But having that personal connection, it's almost like you get a concierge inside the firm to help you understand, like as if you were in a new city that you didn't know, right? What
Yeah.
are the timelines that they think are the right ones? Because whatever the information is on the website is tough. Our business basically wouldn't exist if consulting firms could translate on their own what they wanted and when they wanted it, but because they can't and don't, that's like why we are here, right? Is to help you figure that out.
So because I just started my process, I guess, would you recommend me right now to reach out to referrals?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I would. You're gonna, what you do is you tell them, I'm planning to apply in 3 months. Like, let's say you haven't started casing yet, or you've just done 2 cases, but you want to get 20 under your belt before you actually apply. Then you'd reach out and you'd say, I'm planning to apply in the next 60 days or 90 days. I would love to get on the phone with you to talk about the firm and the culture and some specific tactics for my application, right? That kind of intro is appealing to the firm because it feels like it has a time sensitivity to it. It feels like it's long enough that they can like wait through the holidays, maybe to get on the phone with you later or now. But it also feels like they can still be helpful and you're not like, hey, I already applied. Can we talk? Right. So it helps them feel like they can inject advice into your application process.
Okay, amazing. So I did join the December cohort.
Oh, great. Okay.
Is that something like your team can help me with those?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will see you on the call in like 5 to 10 more minutes if you're able to join us now. And if not, then you can talk to anybody on the team and or your coach, and we can help you write it, develop a plan for it, everything like that.
Okay, amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Yeah, we're excited to have you. Great. One question that came through the chat, I might have missed some other ones. Who should we approach for referrals? Y'all are looking for somebody who is at your level or one level senior. That's the goal. And generally inside the office that you're the most interested in applying for. We have some great articles on networking into consulting where we break that down as well. Man, y'all are amazing. Love your questions. Thank you, Japheth and Eden, for setting up the call today. Really appreciate having you guys and having you here. We enjoyed having everybody, and we hope that you join us for a future episode of the Extreme Consulting Makeover. So again, I hope that it was great content for you, that you got what you came for. And if you have any further questions, then please, please, please let me know.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.